friends, and thanks for checking out a new Tenacious V's podcast. Each week, I grab some drinks and some friends, and we discuss some amazing women throughout history. This week, we're going to be talking about Liliu'okalani, both the first woman ruler and the last monarch of Hawaii. She had a really rough go at being queen, but accomplished quite a bit in her time before being queen. She was truly all about her people, and they recognized that even after her death. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Aloha, hoa aloha, and welcome back to another episode of Tenacious V's podcast. Today we are going to be discussing Liliu'okalani. Have you guys ever heard of her?
Never heard of her.
I've not.
Okay. So she was both the first female monarch of Hawaii and the last monarch of Hawaii.
Oh, that's
as
interesting.
A nation.
Okay, cool. So, yeah. When was she born?
September 2nd, 1838.
Okay. Yeah, I guess kings were still all over the world, or not kings, rather, but royalty. I guess it's still big all over the place. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, monarchs.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it was a lot more. Yeah.
Because it was the kingdom of Hawaii at that point in time. The dynasty that she was born into had started in 1810 and lasted through her lifetime.
That was she's the last of the dynasty, last of the monarchs.
Yeah, so after her, the U.S. took over Hawaii.
Right.
Yeah. We'll start off from the beginning.
Great.
She was born as Liliu'okalani Kamekaeha, and she was born on Honolulu, the island of Oahu. And her birth parents were Anelia Keohokalaole and Caesar Kapa'akea. So I use first names a lot throughout the episode because a lot of them have white first names, and it's just easier for us to remember. And I will give you their full names, but I'm not going to use them every time because I'm probably butchering them. So there's this really common practice in Hawaii, and it's called hanai, and it's an informal adoption between like a relative or close family friend or something, and it was like super common for the noble class of Hawaii, which she was born into by both her birth parents and her hanai parents, which were Abner Paki and Laura Konia.
Okay, so she wasn't born into royalty. She was born into royalty.
She was born into it and adopted into it.
Oh, I see.
So, like, literally every single bit of her family was, like, as royal as it comes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, like, we're kind of seeing a Hatshepsut thing here where she's just set up to be royalty. Like,
right.
You know, she's
Sure.
on top. So, she was raised with Abner and Laura's biological daughter, Bernice Pauahai Bishop, and she ended up being baptized as a Christian, which was very common for Hawaiian royalty. Like, very, very common for them to be raised, like, Christian and go to Christian schools and stuff and be raised kind of, like, in a American sense, but, like, keep a really strong, deep, like, Hawaiian roots. So, like, very culturally Hawaiian, but kind of educated American.
It's interesting because I was wondering how long had Christianity been in like that area of Hawaii? Like
quite a while.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a missionary party, actually, like a political party as part of Hawaii was like the missionary party.
Well, I wouldn't think that until the invasion from America, from North America, or the colonies, or
it'd be America.
I would think that would be something. The religion aspect would be something they brought with them, but I didn't think that would be the case. That
they were occupied at multiple points before America took over.
Multiple different nations.
Hawaii itself was occupied by America multiple times before America.
Okay, I was just clarifying that it wasn't like Spain and Italy and or Portugal or these nations had all kind of moved in and kind of...
I would say, if anything, it was like America, Mexico, Canada, maybe Japan.
All right.
I thought it was owned by, before this, I thought they were under control of Spain for a while.
I don't know anything about the Hawaiian history before this, unfortunately.
Okay, all right.
So, a tradition at the time was to name your child after an event that corresponded with their birth. So, when Liliu was born, the Queen Regent, who was Kuhina Nui, so she wouldn't have been, like, the queen in the sense that Liliu was. She would have been the queen as, like, she was married to the king. You know, like, she might have had royal duties, and she probably stood in as ruler when he was away on trips, but she wasn't actually the leader of the country.
I understand. Yeah, totally. Kind of like a steward. Somebody just steps in and takes up, like, decision-making when the king's off or away, or,
Yeah. So, she had so Kuhina Nui is Queen Regent. That's what they would have called it. And then Elizabeth Kina'u was the Queen Regent. And she had an eye infection when Liliu was born. So Liliu means smarting, Loloku is tearful, Walania is burning pain, and Kamakaeha means sore eyes.
So what is that all together? Would that be like...
She's smarting, tearful, burning pain, sore eyes.
Got you.
It's just everything's just bad.
Horrible.
Painful.
Sounds passionate, is what I was going to say. That's what came to my mind.
Yeah. Burning, smarting. Yeah. The burning pain, though, that's rough.
Yeah.
Maybe they had eczema.
What's from the pink eye?
Okay, I got you.
So, Liliu's adopted family and her born family were from the Ali'i class of nobles. And her adoptive parents were descended from Kiawe Iki Kahiali Iyo Kamoku, which made them related to the ruling house of Kamehameha. Kamehameha was like the first, the second, the third, and the fourth were all kings in a row.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
This could be difficult to follow with these long names.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying most of the names we use consistently are like David and Laura and things like that.
Okay.
So, I'm doing it for, I planned that for sure. So, on all accounts, she was like extremely royal. And the grandfather of her mother and father, Kame Eiamoku, was depicted on the royal coat of arms with his twin brother.
Whoa,
so,
that's pretty wild, yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty big thing.
Definitely, totally.
So, since Hanoi was an informal adoption to extended family, she was, like, related to pretty much all of the royalty at the time. And, like, the whole inbreeding within royalty thing wasn't quite as big.
That's good.
Yeah, it was a lot, like, lessened, maybe, like, second cousin type thing more so.
It's a little bit better.
Yeah. She also had 6 biological siblings that were also adopted to other family members. She had James Liliu'okalani, David Kalekaua, Anna Liliu'okalani, Miriam Likelike, and William Pitt Liliu'ohoku II. Those were her biological siblings.
Okay.
Yeah. So then at the age of 4, she started studying at the Chief's Children's School, which is now called the Royal School, and the other students had been proclaimed, like, fit for the throne, along with her, by Kamehameha III, who was king at the time. So, like, he personally was like, these are the children that could rule this country.
So it wasn't the firstborn or something like that in a lot of other...
It was way more intricate than that. Like, it was much more about, like, who raised you, who birthed you, like, what relations you had, how you were educated, like, all these factors went into it beyond just like the firstborn son of the king.
Okay, that's a lot better.
It's super interesting.
I wonder if it also had to do with some of their merit. I mean, and how do we know how early they would decide amongst this group who would be taking this position?
With this, I think it was like graduation kind of, and they definitely did go with males first, you know?
I see.
And the women were kind of there as like suitors for the potential kings and royalty of the nation.
I see.
But yeah, it's super interesting. So she had 2 brothers, David and James, and herself, and they were the 3 oldest of her siblings, and then 13 cousins that were in school with her. Mm-hmm. And they were taught in English by a missionary couple, Amos Starr Cook and Juliet Montague Cook, along with teaching the young royalty math, English, history, science, bookkeeping, geography, reading, and writing. The couple was also in charge of the morality of all of the potential future rulers of the Kingdom of Hawaii.
Okay. So that's a pretty big task.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So she actually looked back on this experience really negatively, saying that she got sent to bed hungry and remembering her friends and one of her sisters dying of the measles in 1948, like in that school. So she didn't...
So they were sent away. It was like a boarding school.
It was a boarding school,
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it was on Hawaii, but it was a boarding school.
Okay.
So then in 1950, the boarding school closed, and Liliu and some of her royal classmates were sent to the New Day School, which is now the Royal School, run by Reverend Edward G. Beckwith. She finished that on May 5th of 1853 as 3rd in her class, and during this time she lived with her adoptive family, obviously, like while she was at the day school rather than the boarding school. So then in 1855, Paki, who was her father, died shortly after he had made amends with the daughter, like his biological daughter, Pauahi, because she married an American, Charles Reed Bishop, so he was like pissed about it and they weren't talking, and then like they made up and he died like right after. So they had like moved back in, but then 2 years later her mother, Konya, died as well. So this left her like no guardian because she was still under 18. So
how did that affect her position as royalty?
It didn't. She still had all the right blood and raisings and everything. Okay. And then so her sister and her husband actually ended up taking charge of her, and they became her guardians.
Oh, that's cool. So I imagine that was probably a lot better than the fucking school. Or was she still going to that school at that time?
No, that school closed in 1950.
Right, you said that. You said that.
Or 1850.
I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
Yeah. But so they became her guardians, and he was like involved in the court systems of Hawaii, the husband, Charles Bishop.
Involved how? Like he was a lawyer or something?
He was nobility of some sort.
I see.
But he was an American-born man, but he like came in and became important somehow.
Huh.
Yeah. I didn't look into him really because he's like the husband of her sister, you know, like he's really not important after this part.
Okay.
Except
for that he did adopt her.
Yeah, he did like technically adopt her, yeah. So then in 1865 she ended up informally attending Oahu College for a while. So she didn't like get a degree or anything, but she did just continue to pursue her education on her own in whatever way she could. Which I think shows some real tenacity.
Here you go.
And then now that school is called the Punahou School. And she was instructed there by Susan Tolman Mills, who later founded the Mills College in California. Which is like a pretty big college.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we've already heard of 3 schools that have lasted this long. I mean, obviously they go by different names.
They've changed names and stuff, but yeah, they're still around.
Yeah, that's really cool. Education seems to have been like an important factor in this culture, like the education, at least for royalty. Well,
and especially for her. And she actually later ends up being a big part of trying to make it more accessible to everyone.
Okay.
So awesome. Education's a big thing for Liliu. So she quickly becomes one of the social elite under Kamehameha IV's reign, and he ascended to the throne in 55, the same year her father died. So then in 1856, he announced that he was going to marry Liliu's classmate, though the court was like arguing that it should have been Liliu because her lineage, both birth and adopted, were purer and more royal. So the king and his bride clearly did not like that, but they also did not care. And they said, fuck it. And Liliu and Emma Rook, which was the bride, were actually still good friends, and she was even the maid of honor for the wedding.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, definitely. And then during state occasions afterwards, she was Emma's attendant and, like, lady in waiting, and, like, she was, like, a big part of her life.
So they were pretty close queen. Then.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So that also helps secure her in the royalty, as, like, I've been there, I've seen a lot of it, you know? I forgot to mention this earlier, but when she was baptized as a child, her first name became Lydia. That's like her Christian given name.
Mm-hmm.
So then at a certain point, a British dignitary visited in 1861, and he wrote that Lydia Paki was the highest unmarried woman in the whole kingdom.
Okay, yeah. Kept herself very important.
Yeah. And well known.
And single.
And single.
So, due to her high rank and prestige, who she would marry was actually a huge topic of discussion. And she had a few suitors over the years, but nobody really stuck until William Charles Lunalilo, whom she had known since childhood. They were both interested in musical composure and liked each other as friends and everything. And originally he had been betrothed to Princess Victoria, but her brother didn't like William. Like, Victoria's brother didn't like William. So that, like, fell through pretty dramatically. And he and Liliu got engaged. Although she ended up breaking that off because her sister and the bishop did not approve. And Kamehameha IV was, like, encouraging her to end that relationship as well. So it's like, if the king himself is like, you should break up with that guy, you're probably gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking pretty high advice.
Yeah. So she ended up marrying American-born John Owen Dominus, and they had also grown up together. King Kamehameha was one of the 4 honored guests at her wedding, too, So their marriage was extremely unhappy, and everyone was, like, gossiping about William's affairs, and his mother didn't like him marrying a Hawaiian.
Maybe that's why the other princess's brother was fucking so against this guy, is because William's a fucking...
Butthole?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleeps around.
Well, and his
so
mom's a
maybe,
fucking racist.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I feel like racism was pretty tolerated at this time.
I guess that's true, too.
But it's in Hawaii against Hawaiians.
Yeah, that's not... Yeah, that wouldn't work.
That's fucked. So, they had no biological children, but against William's wishes, Liliu adopted 3 Hanai children. Lydia Ka Liliu'okalani, a hollow, a family friend's daughter, and then Joseph Kai Ponohai Eia, a retainer's son, and then John Eimoku Dominus, her husband's son with someone else. So, I like how... Yeah, I think it's cool. Mm-hmm. But I like how he didn't want her to have any kids.
She got those kids anyways.
And she got all the kids, and she took his kid. Like...
Yeah, she's like, nah, I want children. Like, fuck you, man.
So...
He wanted the sex, he didn't want the responsibility of the children.
That's exactly
right.
It.
Douche. So, Liliu helped Queen Emma and King Kamehameha IV to raise funds to build the Queen's Hospital. And then in 1864, her and her sister helped Princess Victoria to establish the Ka'ahumana Society, a female-led organization which was founded to help the sick and elderly.
Fucking A.
Very cool.
So, Liliu had many skills beyond being a socialite and just her education. She was
apparently she was into composing music.
Yeah, she was a great composer.
And she's into children.
Yeah.
And elderly. Caregiving.
Yeah. She's got the community's best interests at heart, for sure.
It sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds like she really wants to help the people of Hawaii.
Yeah.
I wonder if that has to do with how she was raised by these... well, not raised, but how she went to school with these fucking... not colonists, but goddamn...
Missionaries.
Yeah. and how they treated her so poorly, and she probably didn't want that for her people.
Definitely.
to go to bed hungry, because that's something she talked about, and that's probably something she didn't want for her people.
Yeah, and these are supposed to be the teachers of morality.
There you are, right? And it's like, no, in this royal position, if I'm going to be a leader, I'm going to lead by, with a soft hand instead of a sword, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. So all of that definitely played a part in Kamehameha IV. In 1866, he asked her to compose a piece called He Mele Lahui Hawaii as a national anthem to replace the British anthem, which remained the anthem for 20 years. Which is really cool. So Kamehameha the Fourth died in 1872 with no heir, and through some legislature and unanimous voting, William became king. So that's the guy that she got engaged to and then didn't end up marrying.
Right.
The first elected king of Hawaii, actually. And then 2 years later, King Lunalilo died, also leaving no heir. So then they had an election, and it was between Emma, the queen of Kamehameha IV, and David Kalakaua, which is her brother.
Mm-hmm. Like biological brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when David won, there was literal riots, which led to U.S. and British troops landing on Hawaii and many of Emma's followers getting arrested.
Because most of the people wanted Emma, they thought she deserved this position, not her brother.
Well, yeah, because
so
Emma was just the queen. She was the queen already.
Right, but she wasn't the
ruler. Yeah.
Right.
So people wanted her to have it more than David.
Right,
even though he was like equally qualified.
So the people revolted.
Yeah, they rioted in the streets.
Fuck yeah.
It was rough.
Cool. Too bad they were rioting for a fucking monarchy as opposed to fucking their own liberties, but that's still pretty cool.
Either way.
Shows her influence.
Yeah. So that actually led to a huge strain between the families, because like we talked about earlier, Emma and Liliu were like really good friends, but this kind of ended that because it was
it's a big
fighting
deal.
against each other.
Totally.
Yeah. So then when he took the throne, David made all of his surviving siblings royal and named his brother William Pitt as the heir, because he had no children. So then William died with still having no children in 1877, although David is still the king. So at this point, like, there's no heir at all. There's no, like, named heir. There's no children. Like, everyone's just fucking up at this point. No one's having kids, I guess, and there just hasn't been an heir to the throne in, like, a minute now. So there was a lot of indecision about who to name as the next ruler. And then on April 18th at noon, Liliu'okalani was named heir apparent to the throne, meaning like she was the most appropriate choice, basically.
Alright.
And then so at this point, she replaced her birth name Liliu and her baptized name of Lydia and became Liliu'okalani, or the smarting of the royal ones.
Oh wow, very cool.
I love that name.
I'm all about it.
So in 1878, Liliu'okalani had to go to San Francisco for her health, and they stayed there and in Sacramento for a while and just kind of like hung out and got her healthy. And then in 1881, King David went on a world tour, and at this point Liliu'okalani is back home, and she becomes the regent while he's gone.
Okay.
So her first duty was handling a massive smallpox outbreak, probably brought by contracted Chinese laborers. And then she met with the king's cabinet and decided to close all ports and halt any passenger boats. And she also enacted a quarantine for those that were affected, which actually ended up keeping it pretty contained to Honolulu and Oahu, with just a few cases in Kauai.
Nice, very effective.
Very good.
The fatality rate, though, was about 36%. There was 789 cases and 289 people died.
Ooh, I take back what I said. Less effective. I mean, it was effective, but imagine if she didn't. Sure.
Yeah, because
was pretty brutal.
They didn't have any sort of cure or anything. It was just like you lived or you didn't.
Definitely.
And her keeping it contained to that amount was a pretty...
Right.
It was pretty huge.
36, I guess, is lower percentage than it could have been.
Well, and even not the fatality rate, like, that's not really in her control at all. That's kind of just, like, what's going to happen. But just how few cities were affected. Because it was really only the 2 biggest cities of Hawaii. And then, like, a couple cases in the next largest city.
I got you.
It's pretty solid containment for such
pretty awesome.
For what was such a big disease. How horrible it was globally.
So, during this regency, she also went to the leper community at Kala'upapa on Molokai. And she was so upset by what she saw that one of the ministers that was with her had to address the people for her because she literally couldn't speak. She immediately made Father Damien a knight commander, a special sect of knights created by David of the Royal Order of Kalakaua for his service with the lepers, and she got the government to actually build them a hospital to better take care of them and keep their populace happier, I guess.
Is that a hospital still around?
I believe so, yeah.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah. She was a great philanthropist and like truly cared for the best interest of her people. And in 1886, she opened a bank for women in Honolulu and helped establish a money lending group for women. She also that year founded the Liliu'okalani Educational Society, which is an organization that helped Hawaiian girls get proper training to prepare them for life if their parents like couldn't afford tuition anywhere. And then the program paid for tuition of young Hawaiian girls to attend the Kamehameha School and Kauai Aha'o Seminary for Girls, where her daughter went.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It was awesome. A lot of education, establishment, and just good infrastructure.
Yeah, she was definitely like building the ability for the lower class to get educated, which is always a huge thing for a leader to do.
Absolutely.
Makes all the difference in the world.
That's right, a good foundation of social structure. It's important, and that starts with education in a way. So, that's a way to build a good, not just community, but like nation.
Yeah,
really. Yeah.
Continuing nation
exactly.
too. Yeah.
Lasting effects for sure.
Education and financial stability.
Yep, there you are. Yep.
So in April of 1887, a group of royalty was sent to the Golden Jubilee of Queen Victoria in London as part of a royal delegation. And then they traveled across America for a little while first, and they went and met President Grover Cleveland and his wife Frances.
Oh, shit.
Who, like, personally received them in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
And then Queen Victoria gave Liliu'okalani a personal audience and was, like, really friendly and really liked her. So that's also very cool. Right after the celebration, they found out that David had been threatened into signing the Bayonet Constitution, which was named for the scare tactics used to enforce it. Began the social elites receiving ownership of America, essentially. They lost a lot of authority and a lot of like rights and power of the Hawaiian people was lost in that signature. They left immediately after this revelation and canceled the rest of their tour of England and Europe. And they were all pretty pissed off. Like, no one wanted this. David didn't want this, but like his life and the life of his people had been threatened, so he couldn't just sit by.
Right, they basically signed this paper with a gun at their head.
Absolutely, yeah. So then, when she's back home, 2 men from the missionary party approached Liliu'okalani in December of 1881 separately and asked how she felt about taking the throne if David was removed.
And she said, fuck yeah.
She told them both only if necessary and turned them down.
Oh. Why?
Because that's her brother. He was doing a good job. They thought that she was a woman.
But didn't the people think she could do better?
this is the missionary party. This is the Christian party. They thought that she was an easily influenceable woman that they could get onto the throne and have her do whatever they wanted.
I see now. Yeah, I didn't misunderstood.
It was a power move. Yeah.
Well, good on her for being like, fuck off.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Bugger off.
So there was an attempted rebellion against the Bayonet Constitution by Robert Wilcox, who lived in one of her homes. It failed, but he did a good job. We're proud of him. David went to America again, and there was some debate as to why. Some said it was purely for his health, but mostly it was known that he was going to DC to negotiate a treaty with America. And she became regent through this time as well, though she said there was nothing of notability that happened. David, while he was in the US, had a stroke, and then he fell into a coma and died 2 days later on January 20th. The news of his death did not actually reach Hawaii until the 29th, when his body, Liliu'okalani, had firmly implanted herself in the throne at this point by being regent and opening many schools and banks and building the infrastructure of her country. She was also very well known and liked by the Hawaiian people, which was a big deal. And so she became the first ever official queen of Hawaii, the first ruling female monarch, the same week that her brother died. So Liliu'okalani did not like how much power her brother had given up, and she really wanted to try and get it back to the original autocracy her people had. And she started this in 1887 when she strongly opposed the Reciprocity Treaty, which was signed by her brother, and it gave Americans Pearl Harbor and special commercial concessions. So her opposing that made all of the foreign businessmen, or heole, really not like her.
Because they were making a shit ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. But she was able to get Pearl Harbor back for Hawaii.
No, it was already signed away. Like, she had been opposed to it from the beginning. Like, when it was introduced, like, she was opposing it then, which was long before she was in office.
Ooh, she was opposing, like, it becoming a U.S. naval base?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, and she was opposing the Reciprocity Treaty, which, like, so it basically gave access to Americans to, like, sugars and stuff with, like, way lower taxes, and, it kind of fucked Hawaii and gave America all these, like, rights and accesses to Hawaii, and then gave them Pearl Harbor.
In exchange for what, exactly?
Probably at gunpoint again.
It seems to be a thing.
Seems to be
honestly, probably thing. They were like, well, we're going to put troops on your land, or you're going to give us Pearl Harbor.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, this is around what time?
Late 1800s.
This was 1887 when the treaty was signed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, what was really going on? Was that Spanish-American War?
Yeah, it was like right at the end of it. So America was all amped up because they had just won.
The one, they gained a bunch of other land from that too.
Yeah, like, so they were just kind of on the warpath.
Expanding, yeah.
Yeah, we got a lot of...
So after she became queen, the foreign businessmen tried to kind of just like pretend her power wasn't real and prevented her from being a real leader. Like,
how would they do that?
They were kind of just playing up the whole like, well, America basically owns Hawaii, like they don't have any power anymore, so like she's not a real queen, she's just a figure on a throne, and we're really the leaders of Hawaii and this and that.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying when she's on the island, when she's on the throne, so to speak, and what she says for Hawaii, the people directly under her would make that happen. So how would the Americas interfere with that? Like, how would North America interfere with that? Like, if she has these people at her beck and call.
That's what they were kind of trying to make her look like a fake leader to the leaders of America, because this is the businessmen of America.
I see what you're saying.
So they were trying to make her like lose validity, so
I
that
understand now.
People would take her seriously, kind of, you know.
Understood. And
as well as just kind of pushing her down, so that she kind of lost that faith in herself.
Smear campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, in 1893, the missionary party asked for her abdication and declared her deposed. They set up a fully provisional government until the U.S. could come in and annex Hawaii. And because her land was already illegally occupied with U.S. military forces, far outmatching her, she surrendered. But she did write to President Cleveland asking to be reinstated as queen and have the provisional government shut down. And Cleveland ordered Liliu'okalani to be reinstated as queen and rejected the annexation treaty. In his withdrawal letter to Congress, he said the queen only surrendered because of the illegal occupation, and were it not for the threat of her people being killed, she never would have considered the provisional government.
Wow.
But Sanford Dole, the dickhead leader of the missionary party, said that Cleveland had no right to interject in the affairs of Hawaii.
So what would happen? Whose say went? Like, did Grover Cleveland get his way and the annex was removed, or did this missionary dude get his way and nothing happened? Missionary got his way.
Yeah, he got his way, and Liliu was like technically still queen, but off the throne, if that makes sense. And then in 1895, there was an insurrection in her name led by the same Robert Wilcox, which was quickly shut down. And Liliu'okalani was kept on house arrest and charged with treason.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So they're really just trying to silence they're trying to make her disappear pretty much.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're trying to do. On January 24th of 1895, just to get all of her jailed supporters from the revolution free, she signed a formal abdication and removed herself from the throne. So, at this time, she's still the head of the Onipa'a movement, which was basically the counterpart to the missionary party. And Onipa'a means firm, steadfast, immovable, and resolute. And their motto was Hawaii for the Hawaiians.
Nice. She
absolutely fought hard to the bitter end to better Hawaii and keep it for her people. But on July of 1898, Hawaii was annexed to the U.S. and became officially part of America.
Right.
So that same year, she published Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen and composed the still beloved song Aloha Oi, which is sung in my all-time favorite movie, Lilo and Stitch.
Where does that take place?
Lilo and Stitch?
Yeah.
Hawaii.
I'm just kidding.
Also, her name is Lilo, and I kind of feel like that's a little nod towards Liliu'okalani.
Very well could be.
Yeah. They just, made it a little bit wider so we could get it, memorable. So after that, though, she kind of really retired from the public eye and just kind of enjoyed her government pension and hung out for the rest of her life. The last weeks of her life were spent surrounded by family and friends, being fanned by the royal kahili. And then she died on November 11th at age 79 in her home of complications from a stroke.
What year was that she died then?
She was 79. She was born in 38, 1917. Yeah, 1917. So the bells of St. Andrew Cathedral and Kauai'ahao Church rang 79 times to announce her death. A choir played Aloha Oi as her body was moved from the palace where her funeral was held to the Kalakaua crypt, and she was pulled down the street by 200 people.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Everyone showed up.
Nice.
And it was a very royal affair. They kept it very traditional Hawaiian royalty for her, which I think is really awesome.
Super awesome.
Very cool.
I mean, yeah, especially considering this is almost 20 years after she stopped being queen.
Right.
Yeah.
But that she was still recognized by the people who she cared for.
Absolutely, yeah.
As royalty, as this queen, as their queen.
Yeah.
Even though this bullshit was happening with the politics, for the people, she was still their queen. Yeah.
Definitely.
Very cool.
She's entombed at the Royal Mausoleum of Mana'ala, where she rests now with all of her royal family.
Oh, yeah.
Very awesome.
Yeah, she had such a short reign, and it's interesting to me because she did so much more as regent than was really done as queen, because her whole time as queen was spent just fighting to keep her country a thing.
Yeah, fighting all sorts of political interest, really. Like,
yeah,
a lot of people stand to gain a lot of things from Hawaii, so.
As well as the merchants trying to, smear her name so that they can keep their profit, their business going. That's
She definitely had a rough go as queen.
Yeah.
But the impact she made on her Hawaiian community as regent, I think, is still pretty amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Any closing words?
Not really.
I'm Will.
I'm Will. Thanks for listening, y'all, and have a great night. Thanks for listening. If you guys enjoyed that, tell your friends, or give us a follow on social media. We are Tenacious V's podcast pretty much everywhere. You can listen on Podbean, YouTube, and Spotify, and these episodes are brought to you by Nona, Will, and Johnny, and the music is done by Staple Milk. Come back next time for some more historical heroines.